Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive into another fascinating topic.
Absolutely. Always ready to explore new ideas.
Today, we're tackling a question that seems to be on everyone's mind. Is self-paced learning the future of education?
It's certainly a hot topic, and for good reason. There's so much to unpack.
We've got a ton of sources to dig into, articles analyzing the benefits and challenges, research on emerging trends that are reshaping the education landscape.
And even some personal stories from educators who are putting these ideas into practice.
Right, real-world perspectives.
Exactly. It's one thing to talk about theories, but it's those on-the-ground experiences that really bring things to life.
So before we get lost in the weeds, let's start with the basics. What exactly do we mean by self-paced learning?
Well, imagine education as a choose-your-own-adventure novel. That's self-paced learning in a nutshell.
I like that. So instead of a rigid, one-size-fits-all approach.
It flicks the script, it puts the learner firmly in control. They set the pace, they decide the learning pathway, and they manage their own schedule.
So it's about recognizing that not everyone learns best in the same way or at the same speed.
Precisely. And that flexibility is one of the biggest reasons why people are so excited about this approach. In fact, 5 Benefits of Self-Paced Learning highlights how this model can be a game changer for learners who are juggling multiple commitments.
Right. Whether it's work, family, other obligations, life can get pretty hectic.
Exactly. And it's not just about convenience. Benefits of self-paced learning. Top 10 advantages explain points out that this control over when you learn actually spills over into how you learn. It fosters a genuine curiosity and a desire to dig deeper.
Instead of just going through the motions, learners are actually getting excited about the material.
You got it. They're not just checking boxes. They're engaged and motivated to learn.
But this level of freedom, while exciting, must also present some challenges, right?
Of course. And it's important to acknowledge those. One of the biggest concerns raised in exploring self-paced learning and emerging educational trends is the risk of procrastination.
That makes sense. Without those external deadlines and the structure of a traditional classroom.
Some learners might struggle to stay on track. It really underscores the need for self-discipline, a skill that's not always emphasized in conventional educational settings.
It's like giving someone a powerful tool without also teaching them how to use it safely.
Exactly. And that's a critical point. Another challenge, and what is self-paced learning, benefits and ways to address its challenges dives into this, is the issue of timely feedback.
In a traditional classroom, you have that constant interaction with the teacher and peers.
Right. But in a self-paced setting, ensuring that learners are getting the guidance they need when they need it, it's a whole different ballgame.
It requires a much more proactive and individualized approach from educators.
Absolutely. It's not just about setting students free to learn at their own pace. It's about providing the support to make that freedom truly beneficial.
So it's a balancing act.
It is. And it leads us to the broader context of education. What trends are we seeing that are pushing us towards this more personalized and flexible model?
Trends that go beyond just self-paced learning itself.
Exactly. It's part of a larger shift. 6 Future Trends of Education and Learning predicts the rise of microschools and learning pods, which are basically small, intimate learning communities that prioritize individual needs.
It's like creating a tailor-made learning experience.
Precisely. And Lee Teddy Texty describes another trend gaining traction, the flipped classroom,
Where students engage with theoretical material outside of class.
freeing up in-person time for more interactive activities and discussions. It allows educators to really personalize the learning experience.
So we're seeing a move away from the traditional model where the teacher is the sole dispenser of knowledge.
It's becoming more interactive, collaborative, and personalized.
And if we look at the bigger picture, 9 things that will shape the future of education predicts that learning will happen in diverse times and places, and students will have more say in what and how they learn.
It's about shifting the focus from standardization to learner agency, giving students more control over their educational journey.
And I can't help but think that technology is playing a huge role in all of this.
Absolutely. Technology is becoming indispensable in education, especially when it comes to facilitating self-paced learning.
Give us some concrete examples of how technology is being used to support this model.
Self-paced learning, why and how it's used, really advocates for interactive videos and screencasts.
Those allow students to engage with material at their own pace, right? Pause, rewind, revisit concepts as needed.
Exactly. It's like having a personal tutor available 204/7. And the evolution of the school of the future highlights Salman Khan's vision for Khan Academy.
Which is all about making education accessible to everyone, regardless of their background or location.
Exactly. It's a perfect example of how technology can democratize learning. Khan Academy offers thousands of video lessons, practice exercises covering a huge range of subjects, and it's all free and available online.
It's a vast library of knowledge right at your fingertips. And speaking of personalized learning journeys, the future is self-paced, customizable online learning. Talks about the rise of online stackable programs. What are those exactly?
Think of them as building blocks for a customized education. Learners can stack smaller, self-paced modules to eventually achieve a full degree or certification.
So instead of being locked into a rigid, predetermined program,
You're essentially creating your own piece by piece, tailoring it to your specific interests and career goals.
and learning at a pace that fits your life.
Exactly. It's all about flexibility and personalization.
This all sounds very promising, but I'm curious to see how these trends are actually playing out in different educational settings.
Well, that's where things get really interesting because it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Let's dive into those specific contexts in our next segment.
So picking up where we left off, let's look at how self-paced learning is being applied in different educational settings. And a good place to start is K-12 education.
Right, where those learners are still, developing those self-management skills.
Exactly. And what is self-paced learning? Really stresses that balance between autonomy and guidance, especially for younger learners.
Because they might need more structure than, say, an adult learner.
Absolutely. Self-paced learning doesn't mean throwing out traditional classrooms entirely. It could be about bringing in elements of self-pacing, allowing students to work ahead in areas where they excel.
Or spend more time on concepts that they find challenging.
Precisely. It's about meeting students where they are developmentally. Now, when we shift our focus to higher education, things change a bit. Self-education, online learning, and the future of education suggest that self-paced learning could completely revolutionize how we approach degree programs.
Making those programs much more tailored to individual needs and aspirations.
Absolutely. Imagine being able to design your own degree program, choosing courses that align with your passions, career goals, and learning style.
It's that personalized learning pathway we talked about earlier.
Exactly. And technology can make this a reality. It gives you access to a wider range of courses and learning experiences than traditional institutions might offer.
It's like building a bespoke education, brick by brick. And this isn't just limited to formal degree programs either, right? Self-paced learning. All you need to know for 2024 talks about how self-paced learning is also driving the growth of online courses in communities.
You're right. Platforms like Mighty Networks are really empowering educators to build communities around self-paced courses.
So you're still getting that social element of learning, even though it's online.
Precisely. And then there's adult learning and professional development. In today's job market, people need to constantly be learning new skills to stay competitive.
Upskilling, reskilling, it's essential.
Exactly. The future is self-paced, customizable online learning, really emphasizes that growing demand for online stackable programs. It allows professionals to tailor their learning to their career goals and acquire new skills in a way that's flexible and convenient.
So it's not just about gaining knowledge for the sake of it.
Right. It's about gaining knowledge that has real-world value, that can help you advance in your career.
And it allows you to learn while you work, applying those new skills immediately.
Absolutely. Now, with all the excitement surrounding self-paced learning, we also need to talk about the challenges. One challenge, especially with self-directed learning, is making sure you develop those effective learning habits.
Right. It's one thing to be excited about a topic, but it's another thing to actually follow through and keep learning.
Exactly. It's like having a gym membership. Just signing up isn't enough. You have to actually go to the gym and put in the work. And that's where what is self-learning? Examples, benefits, and strategies offer some really valuable insights.
Like what?
Well, one technique that stands out is self-testing.
Self-testing. You mean like quizzing yourself before you've even learned the material?
Yes, it might sound strange, but research shows that taking a pretest, even if you don't do well, can actually help you learn and remember the material better.
So it's about identifying those gaps in your understanding early on.
Exactly. And another technique is distributed learning. This means spacing out your study sessions over time, rather than cramming everything in at once.
Which goes against everything we were taught in school.
I know, right? But it turns out that spreading out your learning actually leads to a deeper understanding and better long-term retention.
So it's about quality over quantity when it comes to studying.
Precisely. And then there's repetition and revision. We've touched on this, but it's so important.
Because consistently revisiting material helps move that information from short-term to long-term memory.
Exactly. It's like building a muscle. You have to keep working it. And then there's a technique called interleaved practice.
Okay, I haven't heard of that one.
It's about mixing up different subjects or skills during your study sessions. Instead of just focusing on one topic for hours, you switch between different but related concepts.
Why is that beneficial? Wouldn't it be more efficient to just focus on one thing at a time?
You'd think so, but actually, interleaving forces your brain to work harder and make connections between different pieces of information. It's like cross-training for your mind.
Interesting.
Right. It can be more challenging in the short term, but it leads to a more flexible and adaptable understanding of the material. And the source also talks about the Feynman technique, which is a 4-step process for active learning and simplifying complex concepts.
Okay, now that sounds intriguing. Tell me more about that.
So the first step is to choose a topic and learn as much as you can about it. Really immerse yourself in the material.
Okay, got it. What's next?
Then, imagine you're teaching that topic to someone who has no prior knowledge of it. Try to explain it in simple, clear language as if you were a teacher.
That's a great way to test your understanding.
Exactly. And then, the third step is to identify the areas where you struggle to explain things clearly. Pinpoint those weak spots in your understanding and go back to the material to fill those gaps.
So it's about being really honest with yourself about what you don't know.
Exactly. And the final step is to refine your explanation. Organize your thoughts, simplify your language, and use analogies and examples to make the information more engaging.
The Feynman technique sounds like a really powerful tool, and it emphasizes taking ownership of your learning.
Absolutely. And beyond these specific techniques, the source also talks about the importance of understanding your own learning style.
Right, we all learn differently. Some people are visual learners, some are auditory learners, some are kinesthetic learners.
Exactly. Figuring out what works best for you is key to effective self-directed learning.
It's about creating a personalized learning toolkit.
Exactly. And along with self-awareness, the source also stresses the importance of active learning. It's not enough to just passively absorb information. You need to engage with the material, ask questions, test your understanding.
You're wrong.
Exactly. And here's a point that might surprise you. The source actually recommends against building a rigid routine.
Wait, really? I thought routine was key to success with self-paced learning.
I know, that's what we often hear, right? But research suggests that mixing things up a bit, even allowing for distractions, can actually enhance learning.
Interesting. So it's about embracing the messiness of real life.
Exactly. And finally, and this is something we all know but often forget, the source emphasizes the importance of sleep.
Ah, yes, the foundation of a healthy mind and body.
It's true. Sleep is essential for consolidating those memories and processing information. If you're serious about learning, you need to prioritize sleep.
It's like hitting the reset button for your brain. So, as we reflect on all of this, it's clear that self-paced learning isn't just about shifting the responsibility to the learner.
It's about equipping learners with the skills and support they need to succeed in this model.
It's about empowering them to become those self-directed, engaged, lifelong learners.
Exactly. And that requires a shift in the educator's role, too. Moving away from being the sage on the stage to becoming more of a guide on the side.
It's a new paradigm of education, one that recognizes the unique needs and potential of each individual learner.
Well said. Now, as we head into the final part of our deep dive, I think it's time to talk about the elephant in the room.
Okay, what's the elephant?
Despite all the potential of self-paced learning, there are some legitimate concerns that we need to address.
Right, we can't just blindly embrace this new model without considering the potential downsides.
Exactly. So in our final part, we'll explore those challenges and talk about how we can mitigate them.
Looking forward to that conversation. Stay tuned, everyone. So, we've explored the potential, the excitement around self-paced learning. But now, let's get real about the concerns. What are some of the potential downsides?
Well, one of the biggest concerns, and it's something that keeps coming up, is the issue of equity. The future is self-paced, customizable, online learning really hits on this, emphasizing that we have to address the digital divide if we want this model to work for everyone.
Right, not everyone has equal access to technology, to a reliable internet, to a quiet space to learn.
Exactly. And those are just the basics. If we don't actively address those disparities, self-paced learning could end up widening the gap between those who have and those who don't.
So it's not just about providing the tools, it's about ensuring equitable access and E&D support.
Absolutely. And then there's the social aspect of learning. A lot of people worry that self-paced learning, especially online, can lead to isolation.
We're social creatures, right?
No,
Those interactions with classmates, with teachers, they matter.
they do. What is self-paced learning? Definition, benefits, and tips suggests incorporating things like group projects, online discussion forums, virtual study groups, ways to create those connections even when learners are progressing at their own pace.
So it's about intentionally building in those opportunities for collaboration.
Exactly. And that leads us to another potential pitfall: procrastination and lack of structure. Exploring self-paced learning and emerging educational trends really digs into this, emphasizing how crucial self-discipline and time management are for success with self-paced learning.
It's easy to see how, without those deadlines, that external structure,
Some learners might struggle.
especially those who haven't really developed those self-management skills yet.
Right, and not everyone comes equipped with those skills.
Mm-hmm.
What is self-paced learning? Benefits and ways to address its challenges? Offer some strategies, like breaking down those large tasks into smaller, more manageable chunks.
To make it feel less overwhelming.
Exactly. Setting clear expectations and deadlines, even within a flexible framework, can also be helpful. And encouraging learners to create their own study schedules to really own their learning process.
It's interesting, this balance between learner autonomy and the need for self-regulation.
It is, and it highlights the importance of explicitly teaching those skills. Goal setting, time management, self-monitoring, alongside the academic content.
So we're not just changing the HOW of education, we're changing the what.
That's a great way to put it. Now, apart from the practical challenges, there's also the concern about the depth and breadth of learning. Some people worry that self-paced learning could inadvertently narrow the scope of what students are exposed to.
Because in a traditional classroom, you're often pushed beyond your comfort zone, right? Introduced to things you might not have chosen on your own.
Exactly. It's like if you could choose your favorite meal every night, you might miss out on trying new things, expanding your palate.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So how do you ensure that learners are still being challenged, exposed to a diverse range of knowledge, even when they have more control over their learning choices?
Well, that's where the educator's role becomes even more important. They can curate resources, suggest pathways, encourage exploration beyond those initial interests. It's about guiding, not dictating.
Right, it's about striking that balance. And then there's the concern about superficial learning. Is there a temptation to rush through material in a self-paced setting without really grasping the concepts?
That's a valid concern. Self-paced learning, why and how it's used, really advocates for incorporating those interactive elements, those quizzes, games, simulations.
To make it more engaging, right? To really make sure the learning is sticking.
Exactly. And using a variety of media videos, podcasts, interactive simulations can help make it more dynamic and cater to different learning styles. And https://files.eric.ed.guffeltex.ej1290324.pdf really emphasizes the need for opportunities for reflection and self-assessment built into the learning materials.
So learners can gauge their own understanding, right? Identify those areas where they need to go back and review.
Exactly. It's about helping them develop those metacognitive skills, those skills that allow them to think about their own thinking.
Which is essential for becoming a lifelong learner.
Absolutely. And it all ties back to self-regulation, which is a core element of self-paced learning. It requires intentionality, self-direction, self-motivation.
And those are skills that aren't always emphasized in traditional classrooms.
You're right. And it really points to a need to explicitly teach those skills, to equip learners to thrive in this self-paced world. So as we wrap up our deep dive into self-paced learning, it's clear that this isn't just a passing trend. It's an ongoing conversation.
There's still so much to explore, to figure out.
Exactly. And the future of education is likely going to involve a blending of approaches. We'll take the best of traditional classroom learning and combine it with the flexibility and personalization of self-paced learning.
It's about finding what works best for each individual learner, for each educational context.
Precisely. And as we navigate this evolving landscape, it's crucial to keep the learner at the heart of everything we do.
To create a system that is truly equitable, accessible, and empowering.
Well said. And to our listeners, we leave you with this question. How can you embrace the principles of self-paced learning to create a more personalized, fulfilling learning journey for yourself or for those you teach?
It's something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time.